Coming up on Tech Thing, VPN picks, doing heavy-duty desktop work on a laptop, some incredibly useful cheap tech tools off Amazon, and so much more, all coming up on Tech Thing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/techthing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Please join the crew that makes Tech Thing possible at patreon.com/techthing.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is Tech Thing, where we have something useful in every show.
Especially in this episode.
Yes, especially. My voice is still like cracking and horrible because I just got back from ShmooCon.
So basically,
it's like every time I travel, my voice just to
we need to get you some sort of like respirator that kill, like some sort of like.
It's because I'm talking all day, so by the time I get back home, I'm like, wow, I just talked for like 3 days straight. I'm really like sore.
And it's also like you're talking, you're in a loud room, and you're explaining intense stuff with intense people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. So my voice sounds really funny. Apologies. I hope you guys don't mind. But we have a lot of good stuff in this episode.
Something we should point out, Judith and about a zillion other folks wrote in, quote, this is Judith's email, I am watching the Tech Thing CES 2017 show on Roku. You mentioned ALEXA''S's name continuously at the beginning of the show. My Amazon Echo went crazy. It kept waking up and it either said, sorry, blah, 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 or played songs from Amazon Unlimited. Please be considerate. Thank you, Judith.
Yeah. We were a little bit tired because we recorded that episode at the end of the day, but that is no excuse. And I really appreciate that you spelled her name at the beginning of this.
ALEXA.
So our apologies. We will try not to echo storm the crap out of you guys again. I realize how annoying that must be.
Our bad. We're sorry. Usually we're pretty good about minimizing how many times we we say echo.
Echo.
Or AELXA. I used to be able to spell when I had children. Hadi from Houston emailed ask@techthing.com. He's got a question a lot of folks in the Tech Thing crew have been asking about in the last few weeks. Hadi writes, hey Patrick and Shannon, I'm looking for a VPN so I can stay anonymous on the web. I'm aware of that one privacy site's massive list of VPNs, but it was a bit overwhelming. After looking at the list, I ended up with doublehop.me. What do you think of this VPN, and could you recommend any other VPNs for no more than $40 annually? Do either of you use a VPN? If so, what VPN do you use and for what? Thanks for all the tips and tricks. Hadi from Houston.
So I think the first thing I would mention is that I feel like any VPN is going to be better than nothing. So no matter what you do, just choose a VPN and freaking use it, or just trust no one. Plenty of people do that as well.
Well, it's funny, like, you just got back from a hacker conference.
Yes.
Get everybody after the con, sitting down for beers, and just be like, hey, what VPN do you use? And invariably, it will come down to two people, male or female, and one will be like, how can you trust the VPN? All VPNs are working for the NSA or the CIA or all of the above. And the other person will be like, bro, or sis, chill.
Well, I think a lot of people, especially in the security industry, will end up building their own VPN, so it'll just talk back to their own server in their house whenever they want to use it. But that's awful complicated for a consumer to set up, and it's kind of expensive if you don't just go with software. You have to go with brand new hardware for it.
Yeah.
So
there's a lovely step-by-step guide over at Hack5, basically walking you through the process of creating your own open VPN. But that also means if you use that VPN, that's kicking back into your home internet provider service, who probably tracks everything you do. So you research, right? You try to find a VPN that promises they don't keep logs, that say they operate out of a country that respects privacy, that say they don't track visits using like AdSense or anything, that is upfront about how they handle legal claims.
Yes.
TorrentFreak's Which VPN Services Take Your Anonymity Seriously 2016 edition is a fantastic introduction to sort of all of this, the sort of ins and outs of VPNs and what you're looking for. And this is a series of questions they ask VPNs to answer. And a lot of VPNs are pretty good about that.
Right.
And let's be serious. If you're hiding torrents, this is not nearly as serious as if, say, you're a democracy activist in a country that likes to jail or torture or kill democracy activists, right?
That's a good point.
Let's just be honest about what level of secrecy and anonymity you need. You know what I mean? Like if it's your life or your family, potentially having horrendous things done to them, that's on a whole different level than being like, well, you know, my ISP is really cranky about my torrents, and I just want to hide my torrents.
So you did ask which one we use, and I believe both of us use Private Internet Access, which is over at privateinternetaccess.com. It works. They have a really good reputation, especially for security and privacy. It's not the most perfect VPN in the world, but it's fairly priced as well, and it's easy to set up, and it works with OpenVPN, which is one of the things that I really prefer.
That makes it super easy to basically connect to all of your things.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and they're basically, I love it at the top, and they're like, this is your IP address, this is your ISP, you're not protected.
No.
And then he'll learn, and that's a little scare tactics there,
right.
but they have a pretty good system the way they set it up.
They do, and they have apps as well, so you can use it on mobile smartphones as well.
Yeah, doublehop.me looks really, really interesting, right? You know, they're like, you know, okay, your logs go to dev/null, AES 256 encryption. You know,
if you don't know what dev/null is, that means like it's gone into the nether.
Yeah, and they only allow you to pay with Bitcoin. And they did a really nice job answering on the VPN providers. Of course, I didn't scroll. There's a lot of, there we are. You know, this is their questions to the their answers to the TorrentFreak questions. We're like, this is where we're incorporated. You know, we don't use any external visitor tracking services. It's really cool. They're basically, you know, we'll respond with one-liners from 50 Shades. We have nothing to share with authorities. Even if we felt compelled to, if we run into trouble, we'll stop updating our warrant canary. So it's cool. I like the idea. You know, when you purchase, they create a new Bitcoin address for each purchase.
That's cool.
And then they kill it after 72 hours after you've paid. So they're trying really, really hard to live up to the sort of highest standards. We've heard mixed responses on their customer support online. I would actually love to hear how they work for you, Hadi. But the thing I think we keep saying back and forth is like, you trust the VPN or you don't trust the VPN.
Yeah, you do. The only way that you're going to get something that is like fully trusted if it's open source or if you build it yourself. But then you run the risk of the ISP problem. So keep that in mind. I think any VPN is better than nothing. And there are some very, very easy ones to use for pretty much any kind of device that you have.
I will say I am incredibly paranoid about free VPNs. Like some of them.
Yeah, don't go with a free one because they probably sell your information to make money to marketers and advertisers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if they're like, hey, you can use 5 megabytes a month for free, but then you have to pay. But if there's like no way to pay, got a question for Shannon and I? Got something you want to see reviewed on TechThing? Got a tip or an idea you want to share with the crew? Fire them out to ask@techthing.com, please. And hey, if you want to be part of the crew that makes this show possible week in and week out, please contribute to the show at patreon.com/techthing. Just $1 will make a difference and you'll get access to our really super cool hidden stuff that only patrons get. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You make the show possible. And hey, if you can't donate, we understand. Send in those emails. And if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, where we post a lot of news, or review TechThing on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher, we'd really appreciate it because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TechThing, no matter how you do it.
3 questions answered, 3 reviews, 3 picks, all in 3 minutes. This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is 3 geeky things that Patrick uses all the time from Amazon.com. Okay, there might be a half extra thing in there too.
No more than one extra.
No more than one extra.
One might be half geeky. It's hard to tell.
Okay, are you ready?
I was sitting here like, I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Go.
Oh my goodness. Let's talk about thermometers. The ThermoWorks Thermopen is the pro instant read thermometer that, like, if you go to a barbecue competition, they're all using ThermoWorks Thermopens. They're pretty awesome. I was not ready to spend $100 for a kitchen tool I wasn't sure I'd actually use on a regular basis, so I picked up this, which is the Lavatools PT12 Javelin Digital Instant Read Meat Thermometer. Cost me like under 19 bucks.
Nice.
It is almost as fast as the Thermopen, reads in about 3-4 seconds. Very accurate, and I haven't killed it in over 2 years of grilling, baking, using it to pull my coffee water. Like I use it, like, you know, I'll sit here with it in there with the steam bubbling up underneath it when I'm getting my coffee water to exactly 205 degrees.
Nice.
It's still on the same battery.
Cool.
And basically, you close it and it turns off. You open it, it turns on. And I also found that because it reads in like 3 or 4 seconds, when I'm trying to figure out sort of adjusting, I spent a bunch of time adjusting the heat, the box, the vent, the manifold. There's the word, the manifold for the heating system in my house, because the front of the house was like 4 degrees different from the back of the house.
Oh, weird.
But I could walk from room to room and like set it down, and it's like the room temperature was incredibly accurate.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, and I was just like, this is incredible. In some ways, it's even more useful than my beloved infrared thermometers. These used to be incredibly expensive calipers, digital calipers. And you might notice like, $16.16, $21, let's see, $27, $23. Like, I'm sure the $93 Mitutoyo calipers are awesome, but for 16 or 20 bucks, it's hard to tell the difference between, say, the Vinca DCLA 0605 and the Glow Geek and the Nyko, which all sell for about 20 bucks. This is one of those things, much like infrared thermometers, where they all seem to come out of one factory overseas.
Oh, right.
And it's basically the labeling on it. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the stick-on plastic labels. I prefer,
like a laser etched one. Or something.
But I mean, for 16 bucks, if you need to measure brake calipers, or if you're checking the size of enclosures, or if you're doing stuff when you're doing case mods, man, these are awesome. Like, my next door neighbor was like, I will not use cheap calipers for reloading, and I get it, because you don't want to screw up reloading and blow up your receiver. But
that's a good point.
For everything else, these are awesome, and they're cheap, so there's no reason you shouldn't have a pair in your toolbox. Or
Very
a set.
cool.
A pair or a set of digital calipers?
I would say a set.
A set.
Yeah.
Number
3.
Number 3, the Aven 17010 adjustable circuit board holder. If you've ever spent a ton of time soldering stuff on the circuit boards, see our Amp Camp build, you'll understand why a simple board holder that allows you to flip the board 180 degrees can be super useful.
Yeah, basically, that thing is awesome.
From like the first minute, like, I probably need to epoxy the base together a little bit tighter, but man, this thing is incredibly useful. I love it, though. That thing is
so cool.
And $13.
Yeah, that's a great price.
If you've ever spent a lot of time like flipping circuit boards, it is the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
And oh man, Irwin's Vise-Grip self-adjusting wire stripper. These sell for $19.98. My friend Tim, who was raised by a fairly serious engineer, got tired of watching me strip wire with diagonal cutters, my teeth, scissors, or anything else within arm's reach when we were working on stuff. So he bought me my first pair of proper adult self-adjusting wire strippers. These Irwin Vise-Grips are pretty much the same thing, just a few decades newer. These are really good for 20 bucks. And if you've never used them, you basically stick the wire in here and clamp, and you can adjust the length to whatever length you want here, and you just squeeze it, and it strips the wire and never, ever, 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 ever touches the copper.
It makes life so much easier.
Yes.
It's very cool.
Yes, it does. Got some picks for us, got some tools that are low priced and incredibly useful. We'd love to hear about it. Email ask@techthing.com, or tweet @PatrickNorton, or
@Snub,
or @TechThing. What happens when you take a weekly video show to CES and have to produce something on the fly in a hotel room? You get to experience the joy of taking heavy-duty, high-stress, processor-intensive workstation-level computing and stuffing it into a laptop.
That's exactly what I had to go through. So I needed a laptop that could render HD footage for TechThing quickly while I was at CES. And I didn't want to lug around a big desktop, and I didn't want to use a Mac because I don't use Macs. So I was looking at Windows laptops that were in the gaming genre, because specs for gaming actually pretty much match up with editing as well, but nobody markets their laptops as editing laptops. Everybody markets them as gaming laptops.
I feel comfortable in saying that the gaming laptop market is significantly larger than the prosumer video editing laptop market. Well, we were also laughing because it was like, hey, we've got this 17-inch gaming laptop with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a Core i7, and Shannon, it only weighs like 9.5 pounds with the power supply.
You're so funny. I did not want to lug that around CES.
Okay.
So the one that I chose was this one. It's called the Razer Blade late 2016 model. Why a Windows laptop, you may ask? Because I usually use Linux. Well, Adobe Premiere Pro is the software that we use in-house for our shows. It's the one that I've been trained on. It's the one that we already have templates built for. I So it's the one that I wanted to use, and it's not available for Linux, which is a huge bummer.
I'm going to say something that's kind of rude right now, but the open source people that ask why you aren't editing on an open source app don't edit video for a living. I feel comfortable saying that. But even the Mac people don't want to edit on Mac anymore.
No.
Or we've gotten a lot of questions.
They'll use like Final Cut, I think. I could move to a Linux editor. There are some available, but they don't feature a lot of the things that we use really often. Like I use Gaussian blurs every single week to blur out things that are on our computers. Yeah. I have multiple timelines for every single segment that we do, and I need to be able to edit to and from each timeline.
But you could run Linux and run Adobe Premiere in a VM.
Nope. Premiere Pro does not run well in a VM. We have tried, nor did I want to wait 3 hours for a 30-minute episode to finish exporting. So dedicated hardware was a huge must for me, and that is why I ended up buying this one. So it's a 14-inch laptop that weighs 4.2 pounds, costs about $2,000, so it is very expensive for the one that I got. It has a 1080p screen, as you can see on here. It is 1920 by 1080. I actually wanted to get the QHD version, but at the time it wasn't available on Amazon with 2-day shipping, and I bought it at the last minute right before CES, so I ended up with HD. I also want to mention QHD is touch. The HD one obviously is not, so keep that in mind if you prefer touch, but for editing, I don't need touch. So 1080 with non-touch was perfectly fine.
I will say like the 1080 with the 1080 would be fine for gaming.
Yeah.
The QHD monitor, which has a significantly higher resolution, would be much more useful if you're doing Premiere or Photoshop or any of the CS type apps.
It would be great for that.
Because of all the giant menus and all of the stuff you're dealing with.
So this one obviously comes with the Chroma keyboard with all the different 16 million colors that you can change. It works with all their other devices. It has upward-facing speakers on both sides of the keyboard, which means that it gets really nice and loud, which is awesome for editing. Probably also awesome for gaming as well. Thunderbolt 3 is available on one side. It's USB-C compatible. There's full HDMI. There's 3 USB ports, a 2-megapixel webcam, and a headphone jack. Weirdly enough, they did not include an SD card slot, and that's a big negative for me since I have to transfer files, video files, to and from my computer and my camera. So that was kind of a damper on the whole situation, but I just ended up carrying around a little portable USB to SD card thingy.
I'm just delighted that it has a full-size HDMI jack.
I am too. That is awesome. So it also has a 512 gig solid-state drive, which you were probably wondering about. There's a 16 gig DDR4 RAM, plenty of RAM to edit on, which is great. And it also comes with a 6th gen Intel Core i7 6700 HQ processor, and that will do you about 2.6 gigahertz in processing speeds. And lastly, but probably the best thing in here, is a GeForce GTX 1060 GPU. So with the CPU and the GPU combined, those were the main reasons that I bought this, because they help with scrubbing through my video timeline really smoothly, makes it very easy to do cuts and things like that. And it also helps with rendering speeds once I'm done with the video and I need to export it and upload it to YouTube, for example. Rendering is super important. So in tests, I was able to render on this computer a 1-minute HD clip in 42 seconds. That means that it was able to render faster than the clip actually was. That means it's faster than a 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's big.
That was rendering out of Adobe Premiere?
Yes, right out of Adobe Premiere. So awesome. I was like, yes, it goes so fast with the renders.
So the desktop you use for editing is a couple years old now. Is this running faster than the desktop at this point, or pretty much on parity?
I would say it's really, really close. I haven't done a render test on both of them with the same exact specs or the same exact video file, but I'll run one and find out if it's exactly the same, because they're extremely close. So for editing, I would say this is a great machine. Its biggest downfalls is the lack of an SD card slot, obviously, and the battery is smaller than what I'm used to. It's 5 to 6 hours or so. So yes, I realize this is a gaming laptop, though. It's not going to compare to my Dell XPS 13, which lasts a full workday easily. I'm aware. I've just gotten very used to not having to lug around my little charger, and I have to carry it with this one. So that's kind of a change for my life. But overall, I'm very happy with my purchase. I'm loving the ability to edit on the go. It was super cool to be able to do that at CES.
Did you use the trackpad, or did you bring a mouse and keyboard to edit with?
I brought a mouse, but I ended up using the trackpad just because I was lazy and I didn't want to take out the mouse. So
it takes a long time to pull a mouse out.
And it worked. It was responsive and it worked quite well, so I was happy with it. So if you're looking for an editing machine, this is a great one to choose. Highly recommend for any kind of HD video footage that you're trying to render out for your own YouTube channels. Gaming? I don't know. I haven't played any games on it yet.
It's time to get Doom on that machine.
I think so. That's a good idea.
Yes. We got an email from Nick who writes in, "Hey, Patrick and Shannon, I use a password manager, KeePass. I have a long, complicated master password, and I've used that since I started using KeePass. Do you recommend I regularly change the master password too, and if so, how often? Thanks, Nick from London."
This is a good question. And the funny thing is we've been conditioned to think that changing your password every few months is actually a good thing, when in actuality, it's harder to come up with complicated, unpredictable, and yet something you can memorize type passwords every few months. So what happens is consumers get super frustrated and simply add a number or a few letters to the password that they have been using for years and years. So it doesn't make it any more strong than what they already had because it's easily guessable. So there was an interesting article over on Wired.com that I wanted to point out. I read this last year, and your email reminded me of this. Once safer passwords, don't change them so often. So they talked to a professor, and they also did a study about how easy it is for consumers to fall into this trap, because for a long time, companies have recommended changing them every 60 to 90 days. And that's not necessarily the right things, because those passwords will end up not being as strong. So if you already have a strong password, experts recommend changing it every 6 months to a year. And since it is KeePass that you're talking about, make sure that you use the two-factor authentication plugin as well for more security. So for my password manager, I use LastPass. It's a really hard one to break. My password it's like super complicated. So I only change it every year or so. And when I do, I make sure that the new one is a super, super complicated phrase, something that just doesn't make sense to anybody but me. And since they are encrypted, they are less likely to get abused if an attacker did indeed find my password stored somewhere in some kind of encryption technique.
Right.
So keep that in mind. 6 months to a year should be fine. Just make sure that every time you change it, it's super complicated still, and it's something that you can memorize, but nobody else can.
We had a new sysadmin come on at a company I worked at, and we went from like no password management on the IT side of things, where multiple people had been using the same password
for like years.
For years, and to a really complicated password management system that would lock you out of your account if you didn't change your password in time, which led to like entire small departments being like subunits of the business being shut down on any given sort of whatever that 90-day Thursday was. But and that's really, really frustrating. But you know, part of what you're saying is like the number one step is have an individual password for all of your accounts.
Yeah.
You know.
And luckily you're using a password manager, so I'm going to assume that you do have a auto-generated password for every account that you have online, and you're not using the same one over and over again. Else you probably wouldn't need a password manager. So yeah, good on you for using one.
Yeah, I mean the nightmare is when somebody's like, well, we secure your password and we hash and we salt it, we do all that cool stuff, and they're lying.
Yeah.
And the password you use there also happens to be your bank account password. That's the nightmare. Then you should have changed your passwords every few months. Just what she said, 6 months is fantastic, but step number one, get a good password manager from a reputable provider and use individual passwords for all your accounts.
Yes.
Please.
So moving on, we got a tweet. This one comes from Doug H. at Duck with Glasses. That's such a cute name. At Patrick Norton, at TechThing, at Snubs. Needed to share something nerdy. My current in-house network file transfer speeds.
103 megabytes per second, ladies and gentlemen. I like to ask stuff like this because every so often there's somebody doing like internet to high bandwidth like transfers between different campuses or states or countries. Can you beat this transfer speed? Email us at ask@techthing.com and tell us what you're transferring to and from, like the machines and over what. You know, is it Wi-Fi? Is it gigabit Ethernet? Do you have something much cooler than that? Or if you'd prefer a manually calculated file transfer speed, or if you want nothing less than a full iPerf throughput test. between hither and yon.
Yeah, I want to know. I also want to know what your recommendation is for file transfer speed tests. I'm assuming it's iPerf?
Well, iPerf will actually give you the actual maximum. It'll basically, to use highly sophisticated technical terms, iPerf vomits data across the network to see how fast it can vomit the data.
That's great.
I'll talk more about iPerf next week.
Yay! And remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close your laptop, and do something analog, like clean your gutters.
Woohoo!
I know how exciting that sounds. It's rainy season here.
Yeah, NorCal, instead of snow, we get rain. And we got like 3 inches of rain in a couple days last week. And I discovered my neighbor's tree.
Yeah.
All the leaves that didn't fall off in December,
Oh, no.
like fell off while I was at CES.
Oh, no.
And clogged one gutter.
No!
Right over, nothing says party like being up on the roof in the dark cleaning gutters in your rain.
I want to get video of this next time you have to do that.
I'll try to remember to strap my GoPro on. Extreme gutter cleaning! Oh my goodness. It would be kind of like watching the bishop playing golf in the thunderstorm in Caddyshack. Rat farts!
I haven't seen Caddyshack.
What?
I know.
Who am I to speak? I've never made it through a second episode of Doctor Who, but I'm going to try again because it's on Amazon because y'all found it for me. I'm going to try. You haven't seen Caddyshack?
I don't think I have, at least.
You've probably seen it, just didn't know it.
Maybe.
Golf, Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase.
I don't know, man.
No?
Well, I'm Shannon
Bill
Morse.
Murray.
End the show.
We'll see you next week. I'm Patrick Norton. Hey, thank you.
Shannon Morse.
Because y'all make it possible, and thank you so much for watching.
There's a lot of stuff that I haven't
Doom
seen yet.
and Caddyshack. Yes.
I have played Doom many a time. I've played it on all the devices that you can hack Doom onto, which is pretty much everything.
You need to play the new Doom. This.
The new Doom?
The new Doom.
Yes.
New Doom. New Doom.
I want to play Skyrim on there.
It'll be so pretty.
I know. It's such a fun game, too.
And then you get the big surround monitor.
It's so cool.
And a 5.1 speaker system. And ponies.
And ponies.
More ponies.
I don't know if I would want a pony near my gaming setup. That might end badly. Like if he gets mad,
Pony.
boom, and then he hits the laptop.
Or if he just accidentally poops on the laptop.
Or
Pony poop, not something you want in a laptop. You heard it here first, people.
You're so weird, Patrick.
Hey, unicorn poop comes off fine. Pony poop, not so much.
Good point.